Kia ora koutou, everybody. My name is Richard Ball. I am currently the Group CDM Controller. As I'll explain shortly, will transition at 1 o'clock to becoming the Group Recovery Manager, which is my usual role. I'd also specifically like to welcome here today Ngāi Tahu and Mana Whenua representatives, Elizabeth Cunningham and Yvette Couch-Lewis, and the other media speakers who we'll go through shortly. As at 1 p.m. today, we will move from a state of emergency to a transition to recovery. In a legal sense, that means the lead from a civil defence perspective and the powers that can be exercised under the Civil Defence Act move from the controller to the recovery manager. In a practical sense, it's going to be a continuation of working together across all services and agencies, as we've been doing throughout the response. It means a change in roles and focus of the agencies and ourselves over coming weeks. The nature of recovery is fundamentally different from response. The immediate risks to people, animals, property, and the natural environment has diminished, and recovery is a slower and more deliberate process. It will involve the wider community, not just those living in the immediate area. The Port Hills are a special place for many people in the city and are used for a wide range of recreational activities. There are many ways to help, but please understand that recovery is complex, it takes time, especially if you want to do it well. The first step is to understand the impacts and consequences, and from there we will work with others to develop and implement action plans. And part of that process is community engagement, to understand how people have been affected, particularly after 2 serious fires in 7 years, and what they want for the future. I would now like to introduce Colin Russell from Fire and Emergency New Zealand, who will talk about the status of the fire.
Kia ora. So currently the fire is progressing well. We're still working on the Port Hills, obviously, and it's an active fire ground. So our transition to recovery does not affect the status of our operations. Our crews have made very good progress over the last couple of days and continue to do so. And we're in a mode of scaling things back to critical spots. Our specialist drone team is continuing to work overnight, thermal mapping the area and identifying specific spots that we need to address. It's a very large fire ground, around 500 hectares with a 24-kilometre perimeter, so we have a large area to deal with. We are scaling back our work. For example, we were able to ground all our helicopters and release them yesterday, although we do have capacity to stand them up again if we need to. And our aim is to clear all the hotspots before we hand the land back to the landowners. We're reviewing the restrictions on public access to the roads, and as the scaling back and the area comes under control, and those will be notified through council and normal communication pathways. For example, we were able to eliminate the cordons into Early Valley yesterday. Fire and Emergency will continue to support the residents living on the Port Hills to recover from this fire and work with Civil Defence in that support with both Christchurch and Selwyn councils. The local residents can be confident that Fire and Emergency will always respond to immediately to any reports of fires, and we encourage the public to report any sightings or anything of concern via the 111 system. Canterbury, just a reminder that Canterbury remains in a restricted fire season, a prohibited fire season. So The fire danger is still very high, and we will be entering some more high-risk periods over the weekend and in future weeks. So we ask the public to be very vigilant and careful around their activities. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Phil, you want to?
Yes, thank you. Kia ora. Selwyn Mayor Broughton and I went out quickly and early with the state of emergency. We wanted to give the emergency services the powers they needed to respond to the fires and get the job done without anything standing in the way, and they certainly did that, thank you. But our job was the easy one. As we move into the recovery phase, I want to take a moment to thank the teams from the responder agencies who have worked long hours in difficult conditions over the last week. I also want to thank the families who's picked up the slack while their loved ones have been out doing what they need to do to get this fire under control. Particularly all the firefighters up the hill who have been dragging hoses around all over hot ground and, in very trying conditions. Sam and I have been extremely impressed about how this response has gone. It's also been amazing to see the Emergency Operations Centre in operation here in the Justice and Emergency Precinct. Having everyone here in the same room has helped us make this such a well-coordinated response. When the Minister was here earlier on during the fire, he was extremely impressed of what we have got here in Christchurch and said it would be nice to emulate it around the rest of the country. And finally, to the residents who were evacuated. I acknowledge how unsettling and disruptive this has been for you. Thank you for your cooperation in complying with the evacuation orders. Thank you very much to everyone.
Elizabeth, do you want to repeat?
Kia ora koutou. I just want to reiterate what the Mayor has just said. The coordination and the communication to all the community and all the organisations under this plan has worked extremely well. And mana whenua and Ngāi Tahu, of course, were all involved and have been right from the start developing the plan. So I too would like to thank both Mayor Sam, Phil in particular, and Neil Brown, who made the decision, and I think they did it in a fair and wonderful way. So thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Corey Vet Couch Lewis aho. Just to reiterate in terms of the amazing work that has been done across the agencies, Ngāi Tahu and mana whenua in particular are committed to working with all the agencies and have done so with the first fire 7 years ago, and we will continue to do so. The Port Hills is a unique place, and it's a treasure that we should all look after and ensure that everyone that's on there for mana whenua, it is about the safety of all the whānau katoa that goes across. The farmers and their stock and what happens with their stock, that will be taken into consideration through this recovery that we are looking at. Be assured we will want, and I'm sure, to be able to see growth and see plants back in the ground again. We have made some learnings from these fires in terms of what we can plant in these hot zones, what we can for the ecology of our Port Hills, that we can shine. Always remember we are unique, and that's why we live there. So to the whānau that did apply to the evacuation rules, we thank you. That's why we're there in the Port Hills, is because we treasure them. Kia ora. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Al, would you like to introduce yourself?
Al Lawn, Head of Emergency Management and Recovery Manager for Selwyn District Council. Apologies from Sam Broughton that he couldn't make it today. Want to support what Mayor Major has said about our response agencies, and we are very, very grateful for their incredible mahi that they have done over the last week or so. Also want to remember that a number of people have been affected by this for a second time. It has been hard work for them, it has been anxious, and we recognise that going forward. The other thing I'd like to say is that this is a crisis, but a crisis gives opportunities. And this gives us the ability to look to the future and what we can leave for our children and our children's children. That'll be a focus for us in recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll now invite questions.
Colin, where are we at on tours and the investigation? What is that's why suspicious?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a team of investigators looking into all the evidence. The investigation is ongoing, so we can't talk to any specifics there at this stage, but we have 4 fire investigators working with police on the cause for the fire. So it's ongoing.
Can you confirm at this stage whether it is suspicious or not?
Not at this. I can't confirm that at this stage. No.
How, not just in regards to the Port Hills, but in the wider area, there's some more really hot, windy, northwest weather due this weekend. How are you worried about that, and what's your message to the community around that?
The message to the community is quite simple: be vigilant, be careful with, and think about what they're doing. As far as spark generating or hot work type activity, to minimise the risk of a fire start. The conditions that we're expecting, any sort of spark will start a fire, so we're encouraging caution out there through these periods. And the whole, we are on edge essentially as far as more fires starting. We do have another significant fire in the Waikato Valley ongoing at the moment, which we are also progressing well with. So we're still in a high risk situation, and our teams would appreciate the community being careful out there so it doesn't put them under further stress.
And this might not be a question for you, but someone can potentially answer it. Talking to some of the firefighters who've been on the ground fighting both fires this time and 7 years ago, that talked about the enormous amount of slash and fuel up there that they've really noticed compared to this. Do we need to rethink the way things are planted and put in place up there just to mitigate the risk?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we do have some really good data on non-flammable planting and safe ways to, or safe plants to, native plants that can go in and reduce risk. And our teams are happy to discuss that with any landowners or planters or anybody doing developments to ensure we do our best to sort of reduce the harm in the future.
Do you think the hills should be grazed?
No, I don't have an answer to that. Yeah,
I suppose
Thank
if
you.
I can speak to that, there are a number of groups. There are a number of wonderful groups that have been working before 2017's fire, but also since 2017's fire, been doing a great job replanting native bush, and we will continue to work with them to increase native plantings on the Port Hills and put back that which has been destroyed, or at least harmed in that time. So we'll work with them. I think going forward, that is one of the big things for us to consider.
The homeowners talk about how anxious they now feel every summer when it gets dry, and are almost waiting nowadays for it to happen. This year it did. So it's I guess they're wondering what we can do to mitigate the risk of anything.
So like Colin talked about, a number of homeowners have done some really good plantings around their place. They've put in defendable spaces, so a wide area around their houses, and that definitely made a difference to them. Also, they've planted native plants, and that has mitigated some of the risks to the houses. So going forward, that's something we really need to consider.
Inspector, can you give an update on the police side of the investigation?
Excuse me, thank you. I'll give you a full update if you like, and then you can ask questions afterwards, just in terms of the police response. So just for us, we're still, as we go into the recovery phase, we still continue to work closely with our partners. However, there is a reduction in dedicated staff working on this operation now as we move into the recovery phase. However, we are available to assist or escalate if required.
In terms of the investigation, that is continuing into the cause, and it's far too early at this stage to make any further comment on that cause.
Can you say whether officers are treating it as suspicious or not?
Both fire and emergency and police are investigating the origin of the fire and all information about it, but cannot give that at this stage.
You have collected a significant amount of evidence from the Grove residents, we understand?
There's been evidence obtained through images, videos, and statements from residents in the local area, but also those around the city in terms of footage and all that. And we encourage people, if you still have any further information, to carry on sending that through. But it's too early to determine a number of the things you're asking today.
I'd just like to reiterate what Alan said before about there will undoubtedly be opportunities. Any crisis does create opportunities for change, and one of those is looking at the planting and the species, and that will be over a longer term. There's also immediate issues, particularly in the environmental area, with sediment control, for example, in the burnt areas or where there's been earthworks. So that's one of our recovery priorities, is to understand those and act quickly to reduce wider impacts. Yvette, did you wish to comment on?
I just want to support those comments. That's in terms of the planting, and to acknowledge from last year the learnings that came 7 years ago, the learnings that came from there for the landowners in terms of their planting and what plants they put around their property. But there are a lot more learnings also, like we're saying about sediment control, or the work that was done in terms of getting those buffers up around, up on the Summit Road, or the impact that that's actually going to have on there. It is going to be long term. It takes up to 10 years to get real good growth, bush growth actually happening. So, 7 years where we had lots of volunteers out there planting, we're going back through that again. So we have to start supporting all those people in terms of getting those plants into the ground, supporting these agencies to be able to work within that area and to ensure that that recovery is underway, to be able to support those landowners and also the stock as well. Kia ora, thank you.
Apart from planting, obviously, is there anything else that residents or the council can do, like short term, to help?
Short term, planting, I think getting the message out there, when you're out having a beer with your mates and things like that, share what had happened and the importance of being vigilant in terms of how you are living in a zone now. Climate change is upon us, and you're living within that zone, you're playing within that zone. We have to look after it. So be vigilant, get the word out there. We have to look after that treasure. And the only way to do it is through word of mouth. Get the whānau together, start planting. Put some plants in the ground, not only around your own property, but further afield. Like I said, up to 10 years it can take before you actually see a good flourishing area start to emerge. Yeah.
Good. I think my response to that question is twofold. First of all, first priority is safety. So, there may be trees damaged on private property. I know Fire and Emergency are managing that at the moment in the fire zone. As they come out, they will make sure it's safe around access ways and dwellings. But a lot of the private property will still remain on the owners of that property to ensure it's safe. And so safety is the initial priority. And then there are a number of ways people can help, whether the impacted residents or more widely. There are rural relief funds available. The Christchurch Foundation has also established an environmental fund in combination with Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust. So those are the things that will be publicised over the next few days.